My husband ditched our honeymoon to care for his injured ex-wife, so I went on a trip. And what happened next ruined his life completely. My husband and I got married about a month ago, and this week we were supposed to go on our honeymoon. But while I was waiting at the airport, he just texted me that he wouldn't be able to make it because he had to attend to an emergency situation that his ex-wife had texted him about. For context, my husband is a bit of a workaholic, so he had a client meeting the morning that we were supposed to leave for our honeymoon. Since it was an important client, he had told me to get to the airport and he would drive there from his office itself. So that's why we had to come to the airport separately. I was already pretty miffed about that because I really thought that he could postpone that meeting. And then on top of that, when he texted me that he had to be with his ex because of an emergency, I just lost it. I decided to get flight tickets for another destination to travel to be with my sister, and I did not even respond to any of his messages or apologies until yesterday. But even then, I just sent him a couple of pictures of me dancing at a club, and that's made our families very upset. Our flight was 3 days ago, and since then he hasn't stopped apologizing when he realized that I did not come back home when he couldn't make it to the airport but instead took another flight and visited my sister instead. Yesterday, I was very upset about everything that was going on, so my sister took me to a club, and we ended up dancing and getting drunk, which is why I decided to click a bunch of photos of myself and then send them to him. The purpose had been to make him feel bad, but he went and told everybody in the family, and now people are scolding me because they think that it was very insensitive of me to disregard the emergency itself. For context, his ex had called him because she had tripped on something and twisted her ankle. Her parents don't live in the same state as us, but I feel like she could have called her friends instead. She called my husband, her ex-husband, and he's the one who took her to the ER. Later on, after I landed, I did receive a couple of texts from him explaining the entire situation to me, but that just made me even more upset because I feel like she could have called anybody else on this planet but she chose to call my husband, and he chose to ditch the honeymoon for this. He didn't even have the decency to call me, he had just texted me that he had to miss the flight, and he hadn't even told me about what this emergency could possibly be. He didn't feel the need to explain anything to me until he had dealt with the situation at hand, and that's what's bugging me. This is not his situation to deal with. He could have contacted any of their common friends and sent them to her. At least that's what I would have done in his place because he knows I don't like his ex. I wouldn't risk it, but everybody else says that I'm being too sensitive and my jealousy is making me look like a pathetic, insecure person right now. I don't agree with that though. I feel like his ex should have called somebody else for help, and my husband shouldn't have gone, especially at the cost of our honeymoon. But given the reaction of both our families, I'm afraid that I might have gone a little too overboard with my behavior towards him. So 8 for being mad at my husband for skipping our honeymoon so he could be with his ex for a medical emergency? Okay, I did not want to speak to my in-laws right now because things are pretty tense, but I did explain the situation to my family. I've already been very upset with my husband for the past couple of days because I feel like after we got married, he's been taking me for granted. In fact, I would actually go further back and say that this has been going on for a while now. Ever since we got engaged, he's been spending all his time at work, and while I usually don't mind that, it's been getting a bit excessive. He's been working like crazy over this promotion to the extent that he was even considering postponing the wedding until after he had his promotion, but I put my foot down at that point. So yes, it's been a little insane, and we've been having a lot of petty, bickering kind of fights. Before we got married, I was mostly trying to keep my calm since I thought that this was just a phase. He would get a little less intense about work with time, but that didn't happen, clearly. And then the thing with his ex. I know that in my post I probably came off as a very insecure person. I don't blame anybody for thinking that way because anybody who doesn't know the whole story would probably believe that I'm the bad guy here. Honestly though, I feel like I have my reasons since he and his ex have a very complicated history. They started dating in college and they were together for 3 years and got married at 23. And then they stayed married for another 3 years before filing for divorce due to incompatibility issues. 2 years later, he met me, and we started dating. He had always been very upfront about his relationship with his ex. He had told me that she had been a very important part of his life and they had continued to be friends after their divorce because it had been an amicable situation. Before I met her for the first time, I was not insecure at all, but then I saw how she acted around him, and I wouldn't say that I felt insecure, but I would say that I felt very uneasy. For context, they still have a group of friends from when they were in college, and they try to meet every couple of months. So after we had been together for almost a year, my husband took me to meet his friends, and his ex was going to be there like she always was. I knew that, and I was expecting her, and I thought that I was going to be mentally prepared to meet her. In the beginning, it actually went well, she was quite warm to me and she seemed nice, but then as the evening got on, things just got weird. I don't know how to explain it, but all of a sudden it started becoming very clear to me that she was obviously not over him. I don't know how to be specific about it, but just from her behavior I could tell that something was off. She was trying to talk to him the entire evening. She would start pouting if he did not pay her enough attention, and even though she did not try to be mean to me, she totally acted like I didn't even exist at all for the rest of the evening. The drunker she got, the less inhibited she seemed to be. So by the end of the evening, I was quite uncomfortable with the whole thing, and I made my opinions very clear to my husband. At first, he pretended like he didn't know what I was talking about, but then when he noticed I was getting upset, he told me that he had noticed that she had been acting weird but reassured me that this was the first time that this had happened after the divorce. He told me that they had met a couple of times for dinner and drinks with their friends even after the divorce, and she had behaved completely normally, but maybe this time, since she knew that I was going to be there, she probably got a bit insecure and started acting weird. And maybe it was possible that she was not completely over him. I could understand that she had been with him for a really long time, so maybe it was hard for her to see him with another person, but I trusted my husband completely, and I knew that if I told him he could not see her anymore or whatever, it would cause a lot of problems for him. He doesn't have a lot of friends at work because he's so fiercely competitive, and since he used to move around a lot when he was younger, he doesn't have any significant friendships from his childhood either. So this group of friends from college, that's pretty much all that he has. As far as I was concerned, I don't think that anybody apart from me and my husband picked up on the fact that his ex had been acting weirdly the entire evening. I knew that if I told him I did not want him seeing her again, he would have to stop meeting his friends, and that would end up isolating him completely. Obviously, I couldn't expect all his friends to accommodate my feelings and stop hanging out with somebody they'd been friends with for so many years just because I felt a bit uneasy about her behavior, especially when they probably didn't even know what was going on. So that's why I didn't make a big deal out of it. Since I trusted my husband completely, I knew that she could act as insecure as she wanted to. It was not going to make a difference to him because even that evening when I was there for the first time ever, he just kept ignoring her and made sure that I felt prioritized. He continued meeting his friends, and I knew that his ex was there, but I didn't go after that because I didn't like her much. Then at our wedding, she was invited because I knew that if we were inviting his entire friend circle, it would be weird if we excluded her, especially since they were on good terms. Besides, I really didn't want her to think that I was insecure about her, so we invited her, and she attended. Surprisingly, she behaved differently that day. She was nice to me and mostly just kept to herself. So that was good. That was pretty much the last interaction that I had with her, and I thought things were cool. But then this incident took place. Now obviously, you guys probably know where I'm heading with this. The thing is, all his friends knew that he was going on his honeymoon on this particular day, and I just thought that it was a pretty big coincidence for her to have hurt herself on that particular day. I found it even more strange that they have so many common friends, yet she chose to call him even though she's not even the closest to him anymore, neither emotionally nor geographically. I know that one of their friends literally lives a couple of blocks away from her, so she could have just as easily called him instead, but she chose to call my husband specifically. Even though his office is pretty far away from her home, he went instead of calling his friends and telling them to be there for her. Now this, combined with the fact that he had already been acting very annoying for the past couple of months just because he wanted a promotion at work, it just got to me. We had already been fighting a lot because of his workaholic tendencies, and he knew that I really didn't like his ex, so that was just a cherry on top for me. But what I was mostly upset about was that he didn't even call me to explain the situation to me. He just texted me and left it at that, as if I would just have to understand and deal with it. Yes, I did take a flight to my sister's place out of anger because I just didn't want to be alone at the time. I don't think I did anything wrong, especially when he had already decided that he was not going to make it to the honeymoon. Then there's also the fact that if he really wanted to make it up to me and genuinely apologize, he should have just taken a flight to where I am and done it in person. He definitely knows where I am. I've been posting stories with my sister, so it's not like he's in the dark about that. If he wanted to show me how sorry he was, he could have come over and apologized to me, and I probably would have forgiven him because he knows that I'm a sucker for big romantic gestures. The thing that I did by sending him a bunch of photos of me having fun at the bar, getting drunk and dancing, the intent of that was to make him upset. I didn't think he was going to drag our families into it because I didn't do that, and I thought that we were above this kind of thing. After all, he did really hurt me by skipping our honeymoon for the sake of his ex, but then I didn't go complaining to his parents, so I don't understand why he felt the need to do that. I was already pretty angry with him. Now I feel even worse. My sister has been my only solace in this whole situation. She's been defending me nonstop to our parents, and this morning they finally acknowledged that maybe I did have a point. So for my side of things, I don't blame them for being upset with me because initially they did not know everything that had been going on with us. They had no idea about the problem that I have been having with him regarding the whole workaholic thing and then also the situation with his ex, which was not very nice to begin with. But at this point, I don't really know what to do because ever since I sent him those pictures, he has stopped trying to contact me. His parents are still texting me telling me that I need to talk to him and apologize to him for being so petty, but he himself hasn't been saying anything. I'm planning on going back home in a couple of days so I can talk to him about this in person because I don't think that phone calls and messages are going to do me any good at this point. Right now though, I just feel upset about this whole thing. Even though my sister is here for me all the time, I felt like telling strangers about this would at least help me get a clearer perspective, and that definitely did work. I guess he's really upset about the pictures that I sent him, but it wasn't even like I was with a bunch of men or anything. There were mostly women in the background. Since a lot of you had assumed that I was with a lot of men in the club, I just needed you guys to know that that's not what happened. I get why he's upset though. I would probably feel the same way if I were in his place, but then I don't think he understands why I'm upset. If he did, he would have made more of an effort to get in touch with me, but all he did was just call and text, and I really don't think that's enough, especially considering the gravity of the situation. Had this been any other normal trip, I probably wouldn't have been that upset, but this was supposed to be our honeymoon, for God's sake. It's really frustrating for me that he doesn't seem to understand that because he had been apologizing like this was some totally normal thing to happen. In fact, I have even told a couple of my friends about this, and they told me that my reaction was completely normal, especially given the fact I already did not trust his ex and he knew that. He did not think that it was important for him to prioritize me instead. Even my parents have apologized to me now since they are aware of the entire situation now, not just his side, but they have also told me that if I want to make this marriage work, I'm going to have to suck it up and talk to him first when I go home so I can just at least break the ice between us. The thing is, I'm not sure if I really want to do that because I don't think I'm at fault. Yes, maybe sending those pictures was a petty thing to do, but then he went and complained about it to my parents and his parents as if they were going to punish me like a little teenager. I mean, that's petty too, so I guess we can call it even at least on that front. I understand that my parents are giving me advice from a place of concern because they really want my marriage to work out, and so do I because regardless of everything that has happened, I still do think that I love him, and I'm sure that if I talk to him, I'll know that he loves me too. But then love is not enough, I have to know that he respects me and my opinions as well. And right now I don't feel that way because he's been treating the situation so casually that I don't even think that he's taking my anger seriously. That's a problem for me. I did not like his ex at any point in time, and the only reason I did not ever ask him to stop hanging out with her was because I knew that it would be asking for a lot since he would have to cut off his only friends. I'm a generally trusting person, but I feel like even my trust has its limits, and this is crossing a line. Also, the fact that he hasn't texted me himself after I sent him those pictures or made any effort at all to get in touch with me or talk to me is just messing with me. My sister honestly believes that I should just stay with her for a couple of days more until he shows up to apologize or until I think that it's time for me to move on and I can't deal with this anymore. Honestly, I have to say that I'm tempted by her offer because that really would teach him a lesson, but then I don't want to be that petty either. After all, we have been together for a considerable amount of time. We are married now. And even though we have had our fair share of problems so far, we have always managed to work through it. Even though I don't feel very confident about it, I do think that if I talk to him, at least I can give it a chance to work. I don't want to give up on this without even trying, but my only dilemma right now is that maybe he's ready to do that because he's not trying at all. I don't even know what to feel anymore. I feel like I'm rambling senselessly, but I just need to talk about these things. I don't want to talk to friends or family about this because I feel like they will have their own opinions, their advice, and all that. And right now I just want to vent without hearing any of that. Anyway, my point is that I'm very upset that after those pictures he just completely gave up trying, and now just because I was upset with him and did something out of anger, it's suddenly my responsibility to repair our relationship. I don't know how to feel about that. But if I really want to make this marriage work, I know that I'm going to have to just suck it up and do it. So that's why I'm going back home, and hopefully we will be able to sort this out. If not, then I don't know what to expect because the alternative is so bad I don't even want to say it out loud. So I flew back home today early in the morning, and to my surprise, when I came back home, the house was locked. I knew that my husband wasn't at work because it was around 8:21 in the morning, and we didn't leave for work until 9. That was really weird. Then when I entered the house, I was even more surprised because it looked like it hadn't been cleaned for days. I immediately started calling my husband, but he did not answer the phone. Then around 9 in the morning, he finally picked up, and when I told him I was back home and asked him where he was, he told me to stay there so he could drive back home. I had no idea what was going on, but I still stayed even though I had a really bad feeling about this situation because he was not at home. Of course, my first thought was that he must have been staying with his ex, and I already knew that if that was actually the truth, I was going to leave. There was no way I was going to stay with him knowing that he had spent the past couple of days with his ex, knowing that I didn't like her. But like an idiot, I still wanted to give him a chance to at least explain himself because I thought that maybe there was another more innocent and reasonable explanation. Anyway, within a couple of minutes, he came back home, and without wasting any time, I confronted him and asked him where he had been. Then of course, just as I had expected, he told me that he had been staying with his ex for the past couple of days, ever since the day of the flight, so for almost a week. He had been staying with his ex, and he didn't even think it was important to mention it to me, or more likely he didn't tell me on purpose because he knew that it would make me even more upset. But whatever it was, the bottom line was that he hadn't told me. I immediately started freaking out as soon as he said that. I started yelling at him because I was already very upset with him, and I just knew that this was going to happen. He tried to get defensive, but then I asked him if he had been going to work, and he told me he had been working from home. That was the last straw because even when I had requested him to switch to working from home for a couple of days or just take a few days off of work so we could prepare for our wedding together, he had declined and said that this promotion was too important to him to sacrifice his work for. He looked down on work from home culture, so he didn't want to risk anything. But now, just because he wanted to take care of his ex, he was ready to do that. He tried to tell me that her parents are quite aged, so he couldn't expect them to come over to take care of her, especially when they need somebody to take care of them. And all their friends had been too busy, and so that only left him. Having the kind of relationship that they did, he felt that it would be really rude to decline since she was injured. It was very difficult to do things for herself, and that's why he had decided to stay with her. He reassured me that he had been sleeping on the couch and it had been purely platonic, but it made no difference to me. He could have been sleeping in her basement for all I cared. The fact of the matter was that he had hidden this very important fact from me. And like a fool I had been beating myself up about those pictures that I had sent him all the while he had been staying with his ex in her house. In comparison, what I had done was literally nothing, and he had already sent those pictures to our parents to make a big deal out of this, so it wasn't even like this went unpunished. I had to face the music for what I did, even though it wasn't as bad as what he was doing. Now I told him that it was about time he faced repercussions for his actions as well. I hadn't unpacked yet, so I just grabbed my bags and started walking out. But then he told me that he was just trying to be there for his ex as a friend, and it would be really cruel of him to decline when she had requested him to stay with her. He kept trying to explain himself as if this was a very reasonable thing to do, but I was not interested in hearing him out. I just walked away, got into my car, and drove to my parents' house. Once I was there, I explained the entire situation to them, and they told me that if I wanted to file for a divorce, they would arrange for me to speak to a lawyer. It didn't even take a second to agree. So now my parents are looking for a lawyer while I'm just trying to process everything that's going on. I blocked him as soon as I got home, even though he had texted me a bunch of times saying that he was really sorry that I felt bad but he just wanted to be there for his friend. The fact that even while apologizing he was still sticking to his point, it made me even more upset than I already was. Now, given the current scenario, I don't feel bad about anything that I have done because I feel like if anything, I was a lot less petty than I should have been. If I had known that he was staying with his ex, I probably would have gone all out trying to make him feel bad. Anyway, what's done is done now. I'm just going to speak to a lawyer and try to get this over with. He can go stay with his ex permanently now, I don't care anymore. He responded that he's not contesting the petition, and soon enough we'll be able to finalize the whole thing because he's agreed to my terms. He did send me an email a couple of days ago saying that he was really sorry about how things turned out. But then he felt that I had become very insecure and jealous, and he thinks that this is the best decision for us in the long run since he doesn't think he'll be able to make it work with me if this is the kind of person I am. It really boiled my blood to read that email because even now he really thinks that whatever he had done was completely reasonable. Even his parents feel the same way. That's why they called my parents up and started lecturing them about my behavior. But my parents told them where they could stick their little sermon. Anyway, I've decided to move in with my sister. And in a couple of weeks I'm even switching jobs since she managed to get me a position in her company. This is going to be a big move, but honestly I really need this. My friends and parents also think that I need a change of scenery, especially since I really love this man but he turned out to be a total disappointment. Honestly, I'm actually quite excited about my new life, especially since I'm going to be closer to my sister. I'm hopeful for the future.